Bring Purely Gates embroidery designs to life with PureShape Sheets. These 100% polyester sheets are firm, flexible sew-in squares that are lightweight and ready to use. Stitch a Purely Gates embroidery design on PureShape, trim it out with scissors, and you have a dimensional design that sparkles. Perfect for ornaments, masks, napkin rings, butterflies, or anything you can imagine. Let's get started and I'll show you how to make your next project 3D with Purely Gates PureShape Sheets. Here are the supplies you'll need to make a Purely Gates dimensional embroidery where both sides of the embroidery look nice and colorful. Heavyweight cutaway stabilizer, our own PureShape firm sew-in polyester, a hoop collar, a hoop to fit the design, a Mylar sheet, zip top bags and a Sharpie, empty bobbins, thread cutting scissors, medium-sized scissors to cut out shapes, an invisible nylon thread or monofilament thread, a hand sewing needle, color change chart for the design you'll be stitching. Pre-fill a bobbin for each color used in the design. Put them in a zip top bag and label the bag with a thread number using a Sharpie. If your design has similar colors thread, then put them in separate bags to avoid confusion. You can also choose to stitch the backside of the design using limited colors so that you don't have multiples of colors of bobbins. Here I chose to stitch the back of the butterfly using purple for every color change and only changing the bobbin to black for the outline. When using a large hoop, you tend to have a lot of excess stabilizer that gets wasted after the design is stitched. After stitching the first large design, I trimmed away the excess sides and top of the stabilizer and used it to piece my next hooping of cutaway stabilizer. I added strips of that trim stabilizer to each side of a new piece of stabilizer to make it large enough for my hoop. Make sure your seams are outside the stitchable area of the hoop. After each design is complete, use a ripper to remove the strips so that they can be added to the next hooping. Hoop your stabilizer along with a hoop collar. Adjust the upper tension. Proper tension for machine embroidery pulls the upper thread to the back of the design. Since you want both sides to look nice, I recommend balancing the upper and bobbin thread. To do this, I adjust or increase my upper thread tension from the default of 4 to a setting of 6. You may have to test this adjustment to see what works for your machine. The back of your embroidery won't look as perfect on the back as the front due to knots, but it will look nicer with a balanced stitch. Consult the color change chart to know what color you need and drop in a bobbin for the first color. Thread the upper thread with the same color. If your embroidery machine has a basting stitch option, choose it. If your basting stitch setting is much larger than your design, you may get the error message to change to a larger hoop. Go in Preferences and adjust the setting to make it smaller so that the design, including the basting stitch, will fit in your hoop. You can see here the basting stitch has been added to the design and becomes color change 1. When following the printed color change chart for the design, remember that you added this. Therefore, when your machine says you're on color change number 2, it is really color change 1 on the printed chart. So now you're going to stitch the basting stitch. Place the PureShape on top of the stabilizer, centering it over the basting line. I like to trim my PureShape so that it fits just inside the hoop. Stitch the first color change shown on the color change chart. Once the color change is done, remove the hoop and cut the threads on the back. Consult the color change chart and change the bobbin to the next color. Put the hoop back on the machine. Change the upper thread on the machine to match the bobbin color. Start the machine to stitch that color change. Consult the color change chart. It shows that we have a green dot on color change 2. The green dot means place your mylar after this color change stitches. Since we've already stitched color change 2, it is now time to place the mylar. Remove the hoop and trim the threads on back. Change the bobbin to the next color. Lay the mylar on the back side of the hoop and then put the hoop back on the machine. Lay the mylar on top of the hoop. Change the upper thread to match the bobbin. Stitch this color change. Continue stitching the design, repeating the steps of changing the bobbin, trimming the excess threads on the back, and replacing the upper thread to match the bobbin. Follow the color change chart until you see a red dot on the chart. The red dot means remove excess mylar after this color change stitches. In our sample, we've already stitched color change number 4, which shows the red dot on our color chart. So now it's the time to remove the excess mylar from the front and from the back of the hoop. Remove the excess mylar from the top of the hoop. Remove the hoop from the machine. Tear away the excess mylar from the back side of the hoop. Trim the excess threads on back of the design. Change the bobbin to the next color from the color change chart. Put the hoop back on the machine. Change the upper thread to match the bobbin. Stitch the color change. Continue repeating the steps for each color change until the design is done. Remove the hoop, trim threads on back, change bobbin, replace hoop, change upper thread to match bobbin. Here is the completed design, front and back. Remove the completed design from the hoop. Remove the pieced sides of stabilizer so that you can use them for the next large design, and trim any remaining excess stabilizer to make the embroidery more manageable. Trim around the design closely at a consistent distance. Depending on the details in the design, you can trim around as much or as little of that detail as you like. Here's the design completely trimmed. Depending on how you intend to use this dimensional embroidery, you can manipulate the shape. You can also use monofilament thread to accomplish the shaping of the design like I did for this butterfly. Using the monofilament thread is also used to hang the butterfly to give it its floating appearance. I hope you've enjoyed seeing yet another way to use Purely Gates Mylar Embroidery designs. Discover the fun you can have with Purely Gates PureShape Sheets. Check out our website to purchase.